Shalom. Welcome to this edition of Israel Update. This is an update for Israeli teen activists and advocates for Israel. We have a lot of interesting news stories that are going on, and something in the middle of this that will really throw you for a twist, and I'm hoping that you understand it. Okay, the first story is that Ayatollah Khamenei, we usually blame Iran and Ahmadinejad, the head of Iran, for Iran's nuclear aspirations and the desire to kill the Jewish people. In truth, the real power in Iran is the religious leaders, and that's the Ayatollah Khamenei is the head of Iran's religious leadership, and essentially their military and just every aspect of Iran's leadership is really under the Ayatollah. The Ayatollah this week came out. It wasn't him directly. It was on a website that the government controls, and one of his spokespeople would come out, and essentially everyone's attributing these comments to the Ayatollah, and essentially giving religious justification for the annihilation of the Jewish people. If you can imagine such a thing, that he has justified the killing and the annihilation of all of the Jewish people. Now, figure a country that's trying to acquire nuclear technology. At the same time of them trying to acquire nuclear technology, they're coming out with statements of the justification for annihilating the Zionist regime and all Jews. And you tell me, does that sound like a country you can trust with nuclear technology? This is what causes the world's concern when things like this are said. Many Holocaust scholars said that we've learned one lesson from the Holocaust, is that when somebody says that they're going to kill the Jewish people and they're going to try to annihilate the Jewish people, believe them. That's exactly what they're planning on doing. Now, we've studied when it comes to the 1967 Six-Day War, the idea of a preemptive strike. We talk about Israel always interested in peace. Israel not a country that's interested in war. The 9 wars that Israel has been in its 64 years of existence have not been by choice. They've been brought on by Israel's enemies. And even when Israel fires the first shot, those shots that they fire, whether it be the destruction of the Egyptian Air Force in 1967 or the raid on the PLO in 1982 in Lebanon, have always been preemptive strikes. What a preemptive strike is, it means that we fire that first shot preempting an attack by our enemies. Many times our enemies are planning on attacking, and we preempt that attack by attacking ourselves. The entire strike that might occur against Iran, an Israeli attack against Iran, would be a preemptive strike. In other words, we're worried about a nuclear attack by Iran. To preempt that nuclear attack, we would go and hit Iran's nuclear facilities and ensure that Iran does not have the power to attack us. We're hoping that sanctions, that diplomacy, that all different types of efforts, whether they be covert or overt, will stop Iran from their nuclear aspirations and their nuclear attacks. But if need be, we will attack, and that will be preemptive. A striking comment coming out of Iran this week is that Iran would justify an attack on Israel as a preemptive attack to stop Israel from attacking Iran as a preemptive attack. We're talking about probably one of the craziest regimes that we've seen in a long time. These people are irrational. The Iranians are just totally bent on destroying the Jewish people, and therefore when statements such as justification for annihilating the Jewish people, a justification for a preemptive strike against Israel's self-defensive preemptive strike, we know that the world has got to start paying attention a little stronger. And although the European Union and the American government have made strong strides to stop Iran's nuclear plan, something's got to change, because we are getting closer and closer to that date when they acquire nuclear weapons. Going on to the Palestinian front, scary signs coming out of the Palestinian leadership, as Mahmoud Abbas, the head of the Palestinian people, has signed a unity deal with Hamas. A little background, a little context here. Hamas and the PA, the Fatah fact of the PA, are really rivals, and since 2007 have not been united in terms of the leadership of the Palestinian people. The cause of that has been their overtaking of Gaza and their absolute destruction of the Palestinian control in Gaza, and we haven't been able to see unity amongst them. That's a very good thing, because Hamas is part of their charter is the destruction of the Jewish people, and they won't revoke that. They won't recognize the Jewish people. They won't recognize the state, the Israeli state, and they won't recognize for sure, nor will Fatah, the Israeli state, as a Jewish state. The signing of a unity deal between Fatah, meaning Mahmoud Abbas, the Palestinian Authority, and Hamas, signals Fatah's decision to sign up with the terrorists as opposed to pursuing peace with the Israeli people. It's a dangerous sign, one that Bibi Netanyahu picked up and said, hey, it's your choice. We're ready to sit here with peace. If you'd rather be partners with terrorists, that's your choice, but understand what you're choosing. You're walking away from, not only walking away from peace negotiations and a stalemate, but you're walking away and signing up with terrorists. It comes to show the true Palestinian motivations here, and that they're not really interested in peace. They'd rather have unity amongst their own people, even at the cost of signing up with terrorists. We'll see how the American government takes this, and whether the American government says, hey, look, if you're signed up with terrorists, then there's nothing really much that we can do to talk to you and help you. That's what we're hoping to see. Lastly, Syria is just absolutely going into chaos. The rebel forces, the opposition forces, trying very hard to topple Assad. Scary news coming out of Syria this morning is that Al-Qaeda is actually backing the rebels, which puts the rest of the world in a precarious position. Do we support the rebels and thereby also aid Al-Qaeda, or do we sit by and do nothing? It's hard to imagine that we would support Assad, even though Russia and China are. Assad is brutally killing the families and the protesters who are just out for freedom and to topple Assad's dictatorial power over Syria. We hope to hear some better news coming soon. Shalom.